Sorry, I love your podcast.
Approaching somebody in a restaurant is probably not the best way to go about getting on a podcast. So, how to get booked on podcasts as a guest? Good question. That's what we're going to cover in this episode, and I'm going to share with you the exact tool that I use myself. I've had clients come to me convinced that the only way to grow their business is to post more on social media, more reels and more of this and more of that and more and more and more. And most of them, by the time they come to me, they're exhausted and they're not seeing the results. But when I tell them that one option that I've seen work over and over and over again is being booked onto a podcast, having one short conversation. Often they're only 30 minutes or less, but they can be up to a few hours for the more popular ones. But when I tell them that just one conversation on a podcast can do more for their business than months of daily posting, they look at me as though I've lost my mind. But I've seen it happen over and over and over again. Welcome to Success Redefined. I'm Bella St. John, and that's what we're going to talk about in this episode. One of the most underused and powerful visibility strategies available to coaches, to consultants, to small business owners. Getting yourself booked on other people's podcasts. Not starting your own, although that is a fabulous option, and not adding another content obligation to your week every week, but showing up on platforms where someone else has already built the audience. Showing up and have a real conversation and let people decide if they want to know more about you. Personally, I love this strategy, and over years I've used this on and off myself on both sides of the microphone. Success Redefined is a podcast, and I know what it's like to go through and get to a point where you go, okay, well, I need new and interesting guests, but how am I going to find them? So everything I'm going to share in this episode comes from that dual perspective. First, let me share the most common mistake, if you like, that I see most people make. I had a client, this is ages ago, a business coach, and she had a solid track record and a really good story, and she decided she wanted to get onto podcasts. Good instinct. But without discussing it with me, she went about it the way most people do, which is to send out a batch of cold emails, find the podcasts and send out the cold emails and basically say, hi, I'd love to be a guest on your show, and here's what I do, and here's who I am, etc., etc. And that was it. No angle, no relevance to the specific show, no reason for the host to care, and not even any note that she bothered to watch or listen to the podcast. And she sent 42 of those and got 2 replies, which I actually think is really high, but they were both no. And so she fessed up to me and said, hey, this is what I did, and you told me podcasts were a good thing. And I said, okay. So it's not that pitching yourself isn't a really useful tool. It is, but the host needs a reason to put you in front of their audience. And that's the thing that most people miss. The host isn't looking for someone with impressive credentials out of the gate. They're looking for someone who's going to make a great episode. Now, they may be the same thing, but they're often 2 completely different things. The host is thinking about their listener. Will this person say something my audience hasn't heard before? Will this conversation hold their attention? That's what gets you booked, not your bio. So the first shift you need to make is to stop thinking about what you want to promote and start thinking about what you can contribute to that specific show. Listen to some of their episodes first. Understand the tone and their audience and the types of conversations that the host gravitates toward. Then pitch an angle, not yourself, an angle. Something specific, maybe something timely. Something that will make the host think, oh wow, my listeners would love that. I had another client with the whole podcast situation. Their business helps small business with operational systems, etc. And we came up with a pitch that was about a trend they were seeing in their industry, that small businesses were over-automating too early and creating more chaos than less, but different angle than the first person I mentioned. And this person was booked on multiple shows in the first month. And this is the part that surprises people, because what next mattered, I think, more than the bookings themselves. Because every episode becomes a piece of content you can repurpose. So you have audiograms for social media, or quotes you can turn into posts. A body of work that positions you as someone with a genuine point of view, not just yet another person selling a service. One host actually introduced this person to another host, and that second host had an even larger audience. So that's the compounding effect of a podcast. And we even now have the YouTube collaborator tool. Now, this is what a lot of people don't understand with regard to podcasts. It's not just the audience who hears you on one episode. It's also the relationships that you build with hosts, and then referrals that can come from those, and the credibility that accumulates when someone can see that you've been a guest on multiple shows. It changes how people perceive you, just like writing and publishing your own book. So reach out if you'd like assistance with that. But the next question, though, that I hear everyone saying is, yeah, it's well and good to do that, but I don't have hours to scan the internet or to rely on one of the AI agents to find me suitable podcasts and get past gatekeepers. And so how do you do that? How do you find podcasts? How do you get in front of these hosts? And that's where I want to tell you a secret that's not actually a secret. And this is something that I use myself for Success Redefined Podcast. And it's a platform called PodMatch. And I genuinely love it. Actually, I love it so much that I've just become an ambassador, one of their ambassadors, which means I do receive compensation if you'd like to sign up through my link. But they're not supporting this show. Nobody has asked me to do this. They don't actually know that I'm doing this. But I do think it's the best tool that I've come across after decades. Yes, well, multiple decades. But I do actually think that it is the best tool available out there for not only for getting on to podcasts, but also for podcast hosts. So what PodMatch does is they match you as a potential guest or as a potential host with people who are actively looking for guests or podcasts on your topic. So instead of cold emailing into the void and hoping someone responds, you're connecting with hosts who already have said, I want to talk with someone about this subject. And that changes everything. It takes the hard work out of the process and actually makes it quite enjoyable. If you want to check it out, go to joinpodmatch.com/successredefined. And please do tell them that I sent them. Their team is phenomenal. Their support people they're just wonderful. And if you do use that link, please send me an email, contact me via my website, or make a comment below, and I'll send you something extra special as my thank you. But here's also what I do want you to understand, regardless of whether you use PodMatch or any other approach. The skill of getting booked on podcasts is not about tactics. It's about positioning. It's about knowing what you bring to the conversation that a host cannot get from someone else. And it's about being willing to do the preparation that most people skip. The majority of the people who have pitched to me for Success Redefined Podcast on PodMatch have been fantastic. They've paid attention, they've watched it or listened to an episode, and they've crafted their pitch accordingly. But one person, it was just a cut and paste. I've published a book, I want to talk to you about it, basically. Obviously, there are a few more words than that. But it was like, I didn't even feel compelled to send them a thanks, but no thanks. So before you pitch, please just do 3 things. Get clear on these. What is the specific perspective that you bring that's different from other people in your field? Number 2, what is the audience that you want to reach? And which show serves that audience? And 3, what is the one episode topic that you could pitch right now that a host would immediately see value in? If you can't answer those 3 clearly, you're not ready to pitch, and that's fine. Getting ready to be ready, as Abraham says. Getting clear on your positioning is the work that makes everything else easier. Not just podcast, but all of your visibility. I'll leave you with this. Most people think visibility is about volume. Post more, post more, post more. Oh, and then when you're done posting more, post some more. But that's just more noise. The business owners I work with who grow the fastest in the areas that matter are almost always the ones who show up in fewer places, but with more impact. Is there a benefit to being known by everybody like a Mr. Beast or a Kardashian or whatever it is? Yes, of course there is, but most people are not going to have that level of visibility. One great podcast conversation where you genuinely help the audience is worth more than 100 social media posts that disappear in about 24 hours. That's also another benefit of podcasts, is that they stay relatively evergreen. If you post something onto Instagram or Facebook or Twitter, it's doom scrolled away in a matter of minutes, let alone a matter of hours. Yet some people's videos are still getting views years later. So if you've been spinning your wheels, wondering why your social media isn't translating into real opportunities and real business, this might be a sign that being a guest on podcasts is something that you might like to consider. So again, the link is joinpodmatch.com/success redefined, all one word. Please tell them I sent you, and please let me know that you've signed up so that I can send you that something special. So I'm Bella St. John. This is Success Redefined, and thank you for being here. Until next time. Bye.